We have a motion from the senator to open, so the meeting is open. All right, first we have the president's report. Tommy?
All right, hi everyone. For those of you who are guests, those of you who celebrate Easter, and of course obviously the Senate and the Cabinet, happy Easter. Thank you for coming today. And I actually have prepared a statement in regards to the proposal for today. First off, I'm excited to see this many people interested in the SGA. Regardless if you disagree with the proposal or understand its potential benefit, student discussion is essential and awareness is key for us to make progress. I ask that you continue to stay aware of the actions of the SGA and allow your voices to be heard through the use of your district senator, forums and events we put together for feedback, and attendance at our Sunday meetings. I also want to remind you all, that the intention for this proposal being put on the docket this week was to have an open discussion on the matter, and I am excited to have that discussion. On the topic of the proposal to provide a stipend to the officials of the SGA, I want to defend the merits and intentions of the senators proposing and the cabinet members sponsoring the bill. The idea started long before any of us. Previous President Matt Hunt was working to provide a meal plan for the cabinet. Most of the cabinet spends up to 40 hours a week in meetings and working on initiatives to benefit the student body here on campus, making it incredibly difficult to cook meals. I wish you could each shadow a cabinet member for a month just to see how much time they put into their positions. Matt was unsuccessful in obtaining this meal plan. So, when Kat and I had a meeting with two student affairs administrators this semester, we brought the idea back up. The student affairs professional said that it was a possibility, but noted that most schools they had previously worked at provided a stipend to the officials of their student governments. Soon after this meeting, Kat and I, along with Senator Nick Nuila, had the opportunity to attend the Conference on Student Government Associations. Where we met student governments from schools across the nation, near and far, small and large, public and private. Through these conversations, we learned that most of these officials were paid a stipend. I particularly remember one conversation with an official from the University of South Florida, who explained that his stipend helped support his family in Columbia. Had he not been a student at a school that provided stipends to student government officials, he would have never been able to make the difference he had made at his institution. Kat, Nick, and I discussed this possibility, and through a lengthy back and forth, we came to the conclusion that this would be incredibly beneficial. For the cabinet, this would provide some money back from the opportunity costs they take when deciding to serve the student body in this manner. It's impossible for me to show the amount of work, time, and thought my cabinet and I put into our positions, but I am constantly rid with guilt over the overwhelming responsibility I place upon them when appointing them to my cabinet. Of course, they don't complain, and sorry, this is a really small font. And we each serve our jobs with pride. I am thankful every day to the students who elected me, and being your president has been and will continue to be the greatest honor of my life. I don't believe I or my cabinet will receive this stipend, but I am happy the conversation is being held, and I sincerely hope that some compensation is extended to future cabinets for the service they provide. Cabinet members have had to sacrifice jobs, relationships, grades, and other opportunities to continue in their positions. I want this amazing opportunity to be one that every student can afford. As for the Senate, we saw this as an incredible opportunity to motivate and add accountability to the Senate, with the understanding that senators will only get this compensation if they meet a stringent set of requirements, including an increased committee requirement. We believe this would put a fire under those who need the extra push to improve our institution and rid the Senate of any individual who is not on board with putting time and effort to improve the lives of their constituents. We hoped this would inspire more students to run for Senate, with the understanding that if they do it for the wrong reasons, they won't get paid. With more students running for Senate, their peers have a greater pool to choose from, ensuring only the best fill a seat. The SGA is not just a budgeting committee it used to be. We provide comfort to you through bringing Adirondack chairs to your lawns and water fountains to your buildings. We're working to improve your academic experience through creating a concerns forum, meeting regularly with the provost and the academic council, working with the Student Faculty Alliance, developing ways to strengthen language and study abroad programs, and working to reevaluate Calvin 3 and Calvin 5. We focus on your student organizations by listening to your concerns through the subcommittee and council and providing for your underrepresented interest through the new organization process. We meet regularly with catering, dining, and residence life to improve your living, dining, and event catering experience. We work to engage with the City of Hoboken to make sure the interests of the current student body and students to come are represented. We focus on your student experience through the Festival Committee, the Tree Lighting Committee, and the President's Council, which binds together the governing bodies of Stevens, as well as the Programming Committee, which brings together the offices of student affairs to ensure that their events are made with student interests and fiscal responsibility in mind. We make strides to improve your health through initiatives such as smoke-free campus and STD/STI testing, and pushing the administration to increase the hours of the doctors in the health center, and to increase the counseling hours during finals, and to account for co-op students. These are just some of the things your student government is currently doing. The SGA works tirelessly to provide for the student body, and I am incredibly proud to be a part of this amazing group. I would also like to speak on some of the hateful messages and correspondence I received over the past few days. It is important to voice your opinions and concerns when you have them. It is one thing to disagree with a person's views and ideas, but it is another to attack them personally. Few people know this, but I have a severe depressive disorder. Luckily, I see a psychiatrist and have the support of a fantastic family, fraternity, and friend base. I'm telling you this not because I want your pity, I don't, but instead to have you ask the question, what if this happened to someone who didn't have that support system? I knew this bill would come with controversy. That much I anticipated. But I never expected the level of hate and cruelty that would come along with it. I assumed people would realize that I'm a good person and would never support legislation out of personal greed or arrogance. I thought people might know of the tireless work I put into the school during my tenure on cabinet. Before I was on the SGA, I founded an organization. I've been on 2 executive boards. I've been recruitment chair for my fraternity. I understand your positions and your concerns. I truly do. And please, know that they are heard. However, I ask that you remember the consequences of your words. There is a human being on the other side of that screen. To any student that has ever been the subject of cyberbullying or is struggling with depression or mental illness, please know that you have somebody to talk to. You have someone who is avidly supporting you, and you are not alone. We are one student body. We are all ducks. I ask that we treat one another with respect, understanding, and kindness. Thank you.
New business. And
Motion to approve Resolution S-17S-006, the compensation of officials of the SGA Act.
Second.
Nick?
All right. Howdy. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Nicholas Nuila. I'm a sophomore senator, and I'm one of the senators who co-created this bill. Before we get into today's discussion, I'd like to go into some of the thoughts and the impetus behind this bill and dispel any of the misconceptions that I've heard. For one, this idea was not any member of the SGA trying to pull a fast one on the student body, nor was it some nefarious plan to steal or embezzle money. The way this bill would have been intended to be proposed would mirror the functionality of the actual United States Senate, in that this would not affect any current member of the SGA. We were not trying to give ourselves money, we were trying to give the future members of the SGA a stipend for the hard work associated with the position. This was meant to encourage more members of the student body to run and be involved with the SGA, as the added bonus might be enough to deter someone from not running just because of the time commitment or opportunity cost. With the stipend would also have come more stringent senator requirements in order to ensure that all members of the SGA would really be working hard for the student body. I'd also like to point out that the idea was and still is in its infancy, and this meeting was supposed to be where the original creators of the bill could bring this up to the Senate. I understand the outrage when someone phrases this as the SGA is trying to steal our money. But this is objectively not the case. And to attack any individual the way I saw is entirely unreasonable, especially someone who has given so much to the school as Tommy. I hope the discussion today can remain constructive and not combative. All that being said, as an elected voice of the student body, it is my responsibility to represent the ideas and concerns of my constituents. After the end of the discussion, after hearing all of the facts about the bill and having some of the misconceptions or confusions dispelled, If the student body feels that this is still an unreasonable bill, then I am inclined to stop pursuing the idea. I hope this discussion can remain constructive, and I'm truly appreciative of everyone that has come to voice their opinion and help resolve this. Thank you.
Ryan?
I didn't prepare anything specific, but I had a few ideas that I wanted to discuss. In case any of you don't know me, I'm Ryan Tom, freshman senator. I was answering a lot of your questions that any of you might have had on the Facebook page, so this is me. I just wanted to point out the fact that we all ran before this bill was an idea. We care about the school. We're here because we like the SGA. We're here because we want to make a difference. We want some change, not because we're trying to make money. If we did that, we would rather get a job. As Nick said, there's some certain intentions behind this that may have been misconstrued, but we had a certain purpose. I think the other point that I wanted to make, as I serve on the budgeting committee and I go through all your club's budgets, and last week we were sitting here for hours upon hours, as
12 hours.
12 hours straight going through clubs. We don't like taking money from you. I don't like sitting here for 12 hours saying, no, I can't give you as much money as you want. All of you have great ideas, want to run great events. We want to provide as much for the school as we can. It's just a matter of, this is our budget, this is what we can do. So the attitude of, oh, the SGA just likes saying we can't have the money that we want, I think is also misconstrued at times, and I just wanted to address that. I know there's a general frustration that has been voiced by students as a whole that a lot of the money in their tuition, students don't know how it's spent. And as a result, there's frustration with that. We don't know what it goes to. We feel like not a lot's necessarily being done. And when something like this that people may be against, they're seeing that's how money could possibly be spent. I can understand why it boils over, and we are sensitive to that fact. I think the other issue I want to respond to is there are certain ideas that people have expressed to me, friends, people I attend classes with, people that I speak to privately that have said they feel the SGA isn't doing much, and that's why they don't support this bill. As you've heard from all of the cabinet members, they put in a lot of work, they put in a lot of time, the senators put in a lot of time as well. We're not just the organization that likes to do budgeting. There's a lot more to it. We're trying to make a bigger difference as opposed to past SGAs. And with that, we've heard a lot of the alternatives that have been suggested. Tommy acknowledged some of these before, and we're looking into other options. And as Nick said, it's still in its infancy. Well, this is something we're working on. So that's what I wanted to address. Hopefully that clears up some stuff for people.
Trevor, or Andy?
No, it was you fixed it.
All right, thank you. I mean, sorry. Andy?
Hey everyone. As one of the senators who supported the Pay Me Back campaign started by Julie over here, I just want to also provide an opinion that I had, that you've seen that student government does do quite a bit on campus. And the efforts that we've seen in response to this bill being publicized, or this resolution being publicized, a lot of that has been feedback sort of directly to these individuals that's unconstructive, and obviously we're condemning that. However, efforts like Pay Me Back, I really think are strong examples of how students can not only present their ideas about how they feel, how they have feedback or constructive feedback for SGA proposals, which is beautiful because we never usually get that, and this is productive. And also not only showcasing what the incredible student leaders that we have, a lot of which are here today, do on a regular basis, just as much as the Senate and the Cabinet do, if not more or less, both physical and mental. And obviously, alongside this is the ideal that the student government can act on behalf of students. There has to be a lot more, in my opinion, publicity of what this SGA does, and more publicity of the opportunities that we offer for our students to provide impact and input. And it also has to come from students. They have to voice their concerns. And one of the nice things about the Pay Me Back meme that was shared, like the instructions, was that it also offered a promise for students to be more active in their student affairs. And coming here is a great first step. Continuing this passion makes a difference. So I just wanted to share one of the Senator responses from it. And personally, I mean, I made my very loud in both the student SGA Facebook group and also the Facebook, also my own Facebook. But while it was meant to be a discussion, it was put on the agenda as a motion to approve, not as a discussion item. So I can imagine how people that may not see what Robert's rules are, or just casually looking motion to approve might think. I just want the student government to show that they considered all of these students in a very public forum before any of this discussion happens, before paying us. Thanks.
One thing I forgot to mention, according to our bylaws, each discussion point has a set time of 8 minutes. That can be extended at the end of the 8 minutes if a senator motions to extend it 3 minutes, so it's not hard and fast, just letting y'all know. Seeing no senators or cabinet members, if anyone here has anything to say. James.
So, my 2 cents on the issue. I want to start out by saying I think this is a bad time to bring this up for discussion. Not necessarily because it's Easter weekend and people may not be able to make it. Plenty of people made it tonight in case we couldn't tell. I think one of the biggest issues with this is we just had the budget meeting, and it may not necessarily be the most obvious thing, but I know a lot of people are upset that funding is cut from clubs. It's simple. You can't take $600K worth of requests and push it. You can't take that peg and push it through a hole that's only about $500K large. So I think one of the biggest things that is an issue, and I've seen it a lot in my time here and sitting in on budget committee meetings, both from the side of a club president, not a club president, but a club official arguing for money, and then now from a subcommittee head directly voting on this, is there is a lot of money that has to be cut. The expected debt for this is huge. And I think it is a little bit wrong-sided. It's a bit wrong that we should be looking to take money and put it towards this, rather than addressing the fact that there is a significant lack of funds almost for what clubs on campus want. And I think a lot of the cuts that were made in the 11, 12-hour budget committee meeting were very reasonable, but I think that starting to address some of the monetary issues with the club, we should start looking at things like the very large line items and the general behavior of budgets before we even get into things like, all right, what else can we start putting money towards? While I understand the compensation is a good idea, I don't think flat money is a good idea, and I think it's an especially poor taste to propose it when the budget committee is already experiencing a massive drought in funding at some points.
Hi, Sakura.
Hello, everyone. So I wrote like a blog post about this earlier, so I have a lot of emotions about it, so I tried to like get everything in a list. So my first sort of, just not really like an active problem right now, but just things to consider in revising this bill or whatever. First of all, I have a problem with the fact that the money comes from the student activity fee, because that was just discussed sort of, so I won't harp on that. My next 2 points have to do with the idea that SGA members spend too much time in the organization to have time for a full-time job. If you look just at the time commitment aspect, not at what you actually do with it, there's a lot of students on campus who put in the same or a comparable amount of time, so that's not really fair. And also, if you look at what they're actually doing, you know, it can be easy, okay, I spent 800 hours a week on Irish Association, like, that's not as serious, it's a bit more lighthearted than the SGA, but as someone who was on the executive board and the honor board, I understand what it's like to be part of a serious organization that's not fun, you know, like staying up till 1 in the morning debating, you know, the future of people's academic careers and having people that you know in the cases. It's not fun, I get that, but SGA is not the only organization that does stuff that's not fun. So if they were to pursue this bill, I think you would really have to consider what other organizations would be worthy of compensation, and if not, you're gonna have to deal with people in those organizations saying, why am I not worth $100 a semester, but this person is? Carrying on. I believe that the proposed prices in the bill are too high. I work 2 part-time jobs per semester this semester, and I don't make $800, just for president as an example, so that's another point that I would want to consider. Organizations on campus that do already get compensated, such as RAs and tour guides, tour guides get a paycheck, but they're providing a service to prospective students. And for RAs, they get compensated in the form of room and board. I know that looking at other forms of compensation besides monetary were discussed already, so again, I won't go on that. Another problem is the monetary stipend. I would be more okay with a meal plan or like a scholarship rather than just money, because you could spend it on beer. Like, I would probably spend it on beer if I had $3. In terms of accountability, that I also have a problem with, because you could technically complete every duty on paper and that's all you do and you get the $100, but what if someone goes above and beyond their position? They're also getting the same $100 as a senator. That's not really fair to me. And also, finally, I have a long list, sorry, but the other 77% of schools that already do get reimbursed, I looked on that website that was provided, and it includes other forms of compensation besides money. So technically, we would already be included in that, since I believe SGA senators get free Founders Day ball tickets and stuff. Like, that was part of the compensation included in that statistic. So it's not just monetary stipend, which is misleading. And additionally, only 54% of private schools get compensation for being on the SGA. And on top of that, smaller schools are way less likely to get funding for their student government members just because of, obviously, the budget. So those are kind of the main points I boiled it down to. I hope some of you agree with me. If you disagree, I'd love to know why. If you guys want to just write it all down, bring it back, talk it over. I know it was a lot, but thanks.
Tommy Joe, direct response to. Nope. Any other senators, cabinet? Sorry, don't know your name.
It's okay. Hi, my name's Casey, and I'm a third year, and I have a lot of feelings on this because, like, I know we all hear student activity fee, and like that's our biggest problem is that paying that state senators comes out of that, and not to say that the senators and the cabinet don't put in a lot of work. A lot of people also put in a lot of work to this campus to make it as good as it can be, and I know at least for me, like, I want the money that I put into this school to get something back, and not that you guys shouldn't be compensated in some way, shape, or form, but like, I had to take summer classes, and I still don't understand why I have to pay a summer student activity fee for the summer when there's nothing going on, and things along those lines. And I know, like, from the budget committee that we are under budget, and like, we don't do tech fest anymore because like that we don't have money for that. And there's so many things that student clubs and organizations on this campus can be doing to help improve us as students, like, professionally, and come together, and I don't see this being beneficial for us.
I would like him to address the budget SAF thing.
Oh, okay. Houston?
Yeah. So, those of you who don't know me, my title is Vice President of Finance. It's kind of my job to know these numbers very, very well, and I do. So, let me address some of your concerns. First of all, we are having a festival next semester. It was approved, so we will be having a Tech Fest in the fall. That being said, that Tech Fest isn't free. It comes at a cost. And when you fund a $60,000 festival, you have to cut other things. You can't fund like everything. So people are concerned that this bill is like one of those things. Is that like answered? Oh, the summer SAF. Yeah, sorry. So we are getting, the summer SAF is being cut. Many of you have heard that. But we are collecting it for this summer, because that's not coming into effect until next year. While the regular fall and spring SAF is being raised to 220 plus. Does that answer your question?
No.
No?
I'm gonna say no.
Sorry, can you rephrase the question then?
It was just a clarification.
There wasn't a question, she was just
Oh, okay.
You just clarified.
Yeah.
Semantics, sorry.
Tommy, do you have a point?
One thing I want to talk about, two things about the bill. The first one, they were mentioning like other organizations, so I actually did talk to Olivia about this. I actually do feel the honor board does deserve a stipend as well. I mean, at least when originally proposing this, I really thought that was the other organization that I saw that students were really serving really selflessly and working really, really hard hours, doing something that really isn't very fun and a really vital resource to campus. And I know, I do understand that we all offer vital resources to campus. Before this, I was on other organizations, I do understand that. But just, it's very tedious work that they have to do. It's very hard work, and it just feels like something that should be like a paid position or something else, some other form of compensation. Also in regards to the claims that this would come from the student activities fee, where it's true that that might be the assumption, nowhere in the bill does it actually say the money would come from the student activities fee. Like we've expressed many, many times, and the sincere disappointment that came with this bill being released before it was supposed to, which I completely take credit for. It should not have gone in the docket, it should have gone in discussion. But there was a precedent set with that with the Vice President of Academic Affairs bill, where they put it on the docket knowing that it would be tabled. So we just thought, and of course we've learned from this, right? We're not going to do that in the future, but we thought that by putting it on the docket, we would have a similar process where we meet with the Senate, talk, meet with Student Life, talk, then bring it to the student body in a more finalized form. So something we did want to discuss is where the money would come from. So if it would come from student activities fee, if it would be that we're employed by Student Life, it's coming from somewhere else. We completely realized that there's a possibility that in this discussion we would say, no, we don't want to get compensated. Or the meal plan thing, which was actually Kat and I's original intention way back when, to have a meal plan for the cabinet. So I just want to express that. This doesn't have to come from the SAF. It also doesn't have to happen. But I feel like there's a lot of frustration regarding that. I just want to clear up that misconception.
Justin?
Sorry to take away like this talk from someone who's like a non-senator, but I wanted to read an email that I received from one of my constituents who was not able to be here, and I thought that this was really important because I received a lot of emails and text messages from people, but he was the former treasurer of the SGA last year, so I'm just going to read like his email that he sent to me so that everyone can read this. It's from Jacob Vanderbilt. He states that I do not believe the appropriate accountability oversight systems are in place for a financial stipend to be appropriate. Only one senator in recent history has been impeached because the power to try to impeach impeachments lies within the Senate, which is a clear conflict of interest when now compensation is involved. Though arguably through the current perks, free Founders Day ball tickets, priority registration, etc., afforded to SGA members, you could argue that compensation already exists. Second, valuing SGA officials higher than any other campus leader that make similar sacrifices in terms of time and foregoing other opportunities is an insult to those other leaders. As a former cabinet member, I can affirm that I spent more time and made more sacrifices as president of Alpha Phi Omega than I did as treasurer. I would have been paid $600 then to do less work than any other volunteers just because the SGA is an organization with access to more funds. Imagine if an executive board of a fraternity tried to reduce their dues or give themselves a stipend for their service. This would be the same thing and would create the same outrage. Simply citing that 77% of all SGAs provide compensation does not address whether or not it would be appropriate on our campus. Third, as a former treasurer, I can say with confidence that we cannot afford the stipend system, and after displaying such outrage over the use of our student activities fee towards Brielle's salary, it would be hypocritical to then request that a salary be given to SGA members. Fourth, I found the rationale for comparing SGA officials to campus tour guides, RAs, and TAs inappropriate. Although students serve as employees of various departments and provide tangible benefits to those departments of the school, SGA members are not employees of the Student Life Office. The SGA is a representative of the student body, and so the student body should have the right to say whether the tangible benefit the SGA brings in is worth a stipend. My last point ties into the right of the student body to decide whether a stipend is appropriate. I find it incredibly non-transparent and unchecked that the method of this proposal is to add an additional article to the bylaws. Why was it not considered to include this as an entirely new article of the Constitution, which would have forced a student body referendum? There is nothing specifically in the bylaws that enumerates the power to grant yourself a stipend. So I think that choosing the easy way of just passing through this bylaws could potentially be a sketchy method that I am uncomfortable with. He also mentions other things, but they're not really relevant to this conversation. But I just felt necessary to speak to a constituent that could not be here.
Thank you, Justin.
So regarding the summer SAF, I remember back, so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Colin. I was on the SGA for a while, as well as the budgeting committee, and the SAF has changed a lot since I was a freshman. And I sort of know how it changed up until now. I don't really know what's happening anymore, but if anybody wants extra input on how it changed and why it changed, I can talk to you later. But just regarding what Jacob was saying about how we can't afford it, so just wanted to specify exactly how much it would be. We have one president, 5 cabinet members, 1 speaker. As far as I can tell, 5 distinct committee heads that don't overlap or have other positions. and then that 22 senators outside of that. So that would come out to $7,250 a semester, which would make the SGA the 13th most funded organization on campus, even before the Presidential Discretionary Fund and Summer Retreat. So that means that there's like 80 plus organizations that receive less money than just the senators and SGA officials, which doesn't really seem right to me, considering that the budgeting committee, which I sat on for a really long time, has to spend hours cutting budgets because we don't have enough money for everything in the first place. That's my main point. Pretty much everything else has already been said. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like you guys all came obviously to represent your ideas, so I asked that you like please do that. Like don't feel afraid if you don't have like a speech or anything prepared. Like just feel free to speak. We're obviously all working for the betterment of the school and the students as a whole. So let's just try and work together to do that. Let's not try and attack anyone. Let's just express our ideas freely. At the same time, try not to repeat what someone has already said.
So, Justin touched on before a statement from my predecessor, Jacob Vanderbilt, and Colin talked about being on the budgeting committee for quite a long time. So I think it is my responsibility as the current Vice President of Finance just to give some statistics on this bill. I think that currently, in the bills, I'm not currently a supporter of the bill. In its current form, it just is financially unsound, and it just can't work. To give some statistics, one of the reasons that this bill has been brought up is because the SGA Senate can be likened to the US House of Representatives. But if you compare the federal budget, which is $3.65 trillion, to the amount that they spend on Congress and the Senate, their legislative body combined, that is 0.000025% of their annual budget is spent on themselves. And if we spent the same on ourselves, that would leave us a total of $12.50 to split up amongst this room. Because of that, it is of my opinion at this time that this bill is financially reckless.
So, along with what Houston just said, I wanted to go back to what Tommy was saying earlier about how it's not in the document right now where the funding was coming from. So I just had like a question. You guys do include where areas it is the duty of the Student Government Association to allocate and levy the student activity fee in a manner that they see as appropriate and beneficial to the student body, and then you go on to the rest of it. So could you explain what you meant by that if that's not where the money is coming from? And also, if that isn't where it's coming from, I feel like it's kind of, I'm not part of the SGA, so I don't know how it always works, but I feel like it's kind of weird that you guys would have a bill where you can actually specify where all this money is going to come from, but you are going to give them money. I feel like that's something that should be figured out before this type of discussion happens.
Direct response?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's totally a mistake on our part. Like I said, this is totally supposed to be in its infancy. I'll let you know this was very much so going to get worked on and edited, and things like that would have probably just been written out. The truth is, I mean, once I saw the post, I was like, oh my God, there's so many things I would change about this, right? Because this was really just supposed to be, let's have a discussion on this as a Senate and move forward. So I do apologize for little things like that, because this was really just supposed to be, let's discuss as a Senate what we think about this and move forward. So yeah, that's absolutely a total mistake.
So Olivia, and then
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak on behalf of the honor board. I just actually have a question for the cabinet. And I wanted to know if your advisor, Chris Shemansky, has been approached about this, and if not him, anyone else in student affairs about this proposition.
So it's a direct question, right? So, yes, me, Chris, Kat, the proposers of the bill, the sponsors of the bill, and Chris and Christy DeMel have a meeting about this. They were Please don't get mad at them. They were comfortable with this idea because it is pretty like common at other institutions. So they said, okay, if this is something the students support, like we can go forward with this. Obviously, there may be a different opinion among the students. But yes, no, they have been approached and we have discussed in depth, and like I said, the intent was for this week. I'm sorry if I keep repeating this, but the intent was for this week to get feedback from the Senate, then we're going to bring that to student life, and then bring it to the student body.
Thank you.
Julie?
I was just wondering, I mean, my opinion is already out there, so it's been stated here, but I was just wondering why there hasn't been like a statement from the SGA explaining all the misconceptions. Like I know you and many other senators have answered questions individually, but I was wondering why like a post or an email has been sent out that just went over and clarified everything. Like I also thought that the money would be coming from the student activity fee just from reading that line, but like I don't know, if there was something like sent out like right after everything happened, some things could be clarified a lot sooner.
Is that also direct?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so I can definitely respond to that. So I did just make my statement. That was my intention. There was a lot of hate and anger in those Facebook groups, particularly like aimed at me. So no matter what I did, people would just use my words against me. And it was really just like, I mean, it was hard. I was with my family, I was with my friends, I was supposed to be home enjoying Easter. And all I got was just attacked as though I was this malicious like vampire trying to suck money. Not someone who really thought this through. No one considered that I wasn't getting it, which is fair because it wasn't written in yet, it's literally infant. But no, so that was my statement. So that is the statement made, at least on behalf of like the executive branch and on behalf of myself. Because really, no matter what, it seemed like no matter what we did, people were just going to attack us. That's why this felt like the appropriate place for students to voice their concerns, for us to have a more civil discussion to gain understanding. That's why I'm really excited the students here to help build understanding and to help respond to understanding. SITTV is here to help build understanding, to show understanding. And that was going to be our method. That's my answer.
Right. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Your statement, is that going to be like not more public for the people that aren't in the meeting today, other than
I'm not sure. I'm gonna share it with Olivia, and I don't know. So the SITTV will be releasing it. If you'd like for me to make it public, I can. Obviously, I shared some pretty personal things. However, I knew that SITTV and the student would be here. Things I didn't necessarily anticipate an email to the whole student body going. So I kind of liked the idea of the student more writing their piece about it, which also would provide a more neutral opinion on it. But if you feel that my statement should be publicized, I'm comfortable doing that.
Saw Anne.
I retract my
Rami?
I definitely agree that we do need to make a public statement, but like Tom said, it was Easter weekend, so many of us were with our families. Aside from that, Olivia Schreiber and I and Nicholas Newell are meeting tomorrow to write an article for student council about the various misconceptions, so we are working towards that.
So before I mention any points, I'd like to say I'm just an unbiased outsider who saw some problems with this right off the bat and wish to bring up some points here.
I'm sorry, would you mind speaking up?
Of course. I can speak a little bit. Just want to say before I say any points, I'm unbiased in this. I'd like to just bring up some points for discussion. One of which just so happens to be on the screen up there, the whereas 77% statistic. I did a little bit of research, and this just might have been an incident, a mistake, but the paid to serve line particularly, the site itself clarifies that word as compensation in the next few lines, and I think people might have read that and immediately been inflamed on the Facebook groups, as were mentioned several times before. I take it for as you will. If moving forward you seem to change that, I recommend that be something possibly you can do. And the second point is, I did a lot of thought on this, and I discovered that there are three main reasons people would join the SGA or any sort of political organization. One, they have a desire to change things. Two, they have a rivalry with someone else. And three, they're seeking some sort of benefit, monetary or otherwise, compensation to do so. And I think we all on campus know friends or students that have joined positions to specifically receive monetary or other compensation just that is associated with those positions.
Now, I'm not here accusing anyone of doing that on the SGA. If you all here joined to make a change or perhaps to fight someone who you believe is going to change things in the wrong direction, I believe that by adding a stipend, by giving them that much more of a reason to join just for compensation, that you're indeed lowering the quality of the SGA and potentially inviting more people who would do, well, poor jobs as senators. So, that being said, I'm going to blow up the discussion as to what I said.
Any more discussion? Okay.
Hi, I'm new to the SGA meeting. My name is Dave Stein. I read through your resolution and had some specific questions about certain items, if that's okay to go over. I guess anyone in the cabinet or the bill proposal is probably knowledgeable of this. I'm concerned with a couple of things. I just want to understand more and then ultimately give some feedback into how the SGA can work more with the students themselves so we can move forward in a more transparent option. Because obviously what's happened over the last couple of days has caused a lot of emotions. I just like us to have a plan and a discussion moving forward that's constructive rather than critical. So you mentioned that we have all these different schools that you consulted about whether or not they have fund for the SGA, whatever they call their respective organizations. For any of these schools, have you specifically asked the students not in the SGA like how they felt about having the compensation? And do you feel that these schools give an accurate representation of the size and culture of the students?
Okay, direct response to that. So when we found out and had
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, you were asking the original writers of the bill?
Well, you said or any of the stuff.
Or any cabinet.
Okay.
Okay. So when we versed, like as Tommy mentioned, a lot of the fuel that had like lit this fire, like where we really got the idea more concrete was at the Conference of Student Government. So it would be kind of hard to actually reach out to any of the people that we really talked to, mostly because it was for student governments. That is a really good point. That is awesome that you brought it up. Like that's really good thinking.
I feel like also, so definitely we did try to like reach out specifically to STEM schools. I know like NGIT has a stipend, Colorado School of Mines are like two that just come immediately to mind. I also want to like speak a little bit on like the numbers. Because I feel like people are very angry about that, and I will let you know that a lot of those numbers came from looking at other schools, and there's a really wide range. I mean, please don't think I'm trying to assume I should get this, but like some, like Rowan, the student body president gets like free tuition, and then some schools it's like $50 a week. I mean, it really goes all over. So the one thing we found that was pretty common was that the executive branch was usually paid, and then sometimes the Senate was paid. Obviously, like we saw a lot of value in like paying the Senate or like providing a stipend for the Senate. But I just want you to know, like, these values didn't come from nowhere. Like, we talked to, like, at least, like, 30 schools, and we actually, like, kind of lowballed from the values that we were getting across the board. I'll also, like, the exact compensation and the whole process of, like, if you don't get it, if you don't do a good enough job, came from Central Connecticut State University, where I believe the cabinet gets $1,200 and the Senate gets $400. I'm not saying that, like, make this okay, right? I'm just letting you know that's where those numbers came from. They didn't just come from nowhere.
Can I continue to ask
Yes.
more questions? Okay. I think that sufficiently gives an answer for moving forward. You talked about obviously that the SGA cabinet is taking on responsibilities that frequently disable them from seeking additional employment and therefore source of income. I have no doubt in my mind that the SGA senators, especially those in the cabinet, they have a lot of work on their hands. I mean, I've served on the e-boards for both EC and WCPR for 2+ years now, and just recently became treasurer of the 3rd e-board, so I understand the workload. I've also been in co-op for almost all of that time. So I understand the workload, especially when you're in your family working with a senator who's literally leading us. So obviously you guys put in a lot of work, but I think it's important to consider, us as e-board members, RSO people, we also take a lot of time out of our schedules to get things done. I mean, a week ago, I was in WCPR for about 12 hours rewiring our amp just so we get the shows broadcasting together. We all put in work that we don't necessarily expect, at least in my case, compensation. So I think just going forward, definitely consider everybody. I mean, you're obviously putting in work too. Well, if you're getting paid, if you're getting a stipend, like, just be open to us, because we all, I think, agree that we put in a lot of work into the school, considering our respective RSOs. And one other thing that really I'd like to know more about is, these numbers that you got for the actual compensation, 800 for the president, 600 for the cabinet, etc. Do you have a cost basis for something like this? Because as someone in WCPR, we recently just changed our mobile unit policy. That's how we do our sound and light events across the school. And it took us almost a year to do it, because we had to do a cost basis to justify why we were changing our numbers. We couldn't just make them out of the blue. So my sort of question, or if it hasn't been addressed, maybe advice would be, provide a cost basis to why you're taking these exact numbers, because from my calculations, under the assumption that we have 41 senators, 1 of which is a president, 5 of which are cabinet members, that comes out to almost $7,500, which is not a small amount of money by any means. So my question really would be, where are these numbers coming from, and could you provide a cost basis as to why these specific numbers have been chosen?
So again, as Tommy has repeated multiple times, this bill was in its infancy, and like we were really hoping that people would bring that up. So like again, like really good point. We wanted to have that discussion on whether or not like the Senate felt like that was fair, whether the cabinet felt that was fair. You know, just have an open and honest discussion, and maybe come up with a better way instead of just saying like $800. Be like X many dollars per hour or something like that.
Yeah, I can expand upon that too. Like in my conversation with Christy, we talked about how if it would be a stipend, it might have to be through workdays, so it would be like a per hour. So obviously that would have like adjusted these numbers. They definitely are based slightly on per hour, like expense per person, right? I'm not gonna like build myself up, but I do spend a really large amount of time in the SGA and on like the student body. And then the cabinet spends like a really drastically large as well time on the SGA. And then obviously the Senate and committee heads and speaker do spend a significant portion as well. But just comparing those two entities, I think both bodies would agree that one puts in a few more hours than the other, and that's kind of the justification for that one. Also like the level of the work they have to do and the things that are assigned to them, the things that are expected of them. But yeah, so like just that, like Pat said, it really was going to be, okay, these are our initial numbers, let's discuss what we actually think this should be. And it probably, honestly, those numbers never would have been the real numbers if we had gone through like a stipend, because Christy would have been like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like, I know he would have probably come back with a new adjusted amount.
If I may respond, that's okay. I just have my closing.
Okay.
Okay. I think I understand where you're coming from, that obviously you see this as your infancy state, but I think a lot of the problem why a lot of people, they might not realize why they're here is, I'm not super versed on the exact documents and how you proceed every week, but I see resolution procedures at the bottom as meaning that you were intending to vote on it. So maybe going forward is clarify more your intentions. Like obviously we want a discussion, that is the way to go. I would make that more clear. Maybe even just a statement to all the RSO heads would have been, I think, better. Because there's been a lot of clarity issues regarding this whole way and how it's handled. Because, yeah, obviously, if you don't have your cost basis, it should be in the infancy stage, but I don't think that was necessarily made clear here. So I think the big takeaway here is, if everyone's more open about their motives and intentions, that way the SGA and the students themselves can get a better trust. I think that should ultimately be our goal.
And just to direct respond, Tommy has said he made a mistake. And we're all human, we all make mistakes. And you're completely right, this should have been on a discussion item instead of just opening up and having the idea that we're gonna table it to discuss it next week. That was completely our fault, and we apologize. We don't want you guys to think that we're some evil group of people who just want to steal your money. We don't. We care so much about you. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't want to improve every single one of your guys' life. So we're really sorry. And again, we make mistakes. We're humans too.
All right. Andy.
Really quick, everyone just please try your best to speak out, speak as loud so everyone can hear. I know some people have quieter voices, some people have louder voices. If you feel like you're a little quiet, we do have a microphone up here. We won't judge you for standing up here and talking and addressing everyone. We just want to make sure to hear and respond to all of your points fairly, so please be sure to speak up if you can. There's also waters all around if you want to.
Liam?
Based off of some of the things that were previously said, I know that one of the intentions of this proposal was to have students try to emulate what other schools are doing and emulate the House of Representatives. While I do agree with that, I think this isn't the right way to go about that, and I don't think we should have that as a primary objective, just to simply try to make ourselves look like other schools or do what other schools do, because we are an independent institution. We have an independent established culture that is unique to Stevens, and we're not like other schools, and we are in some ways different than the U.S. House of Representatives. So I think that shouldn't be just the primary objective.
And
I wanted actually to touch on a point that was brought up several minutes ago, because that's just how order works. We have always been able to fill the Senate, and especially the cabinet, with people who are genuinely here to make a change, myself included. And I understand that providing a direct monetary stipend could then scare some people to believe that the SGA would then be full of people who are here only for compensation. But I think it would be very apparent who those individuals are very early on. And I have faith that the student body would not back those students in an election, because at the end of the day, we are representatives of you guys, the students, and if you want to have people that truly want to make a difference and aren't just here for the money, you should elect those people into the Senate or the cabinet. Like, it is your decision who is here and who represents you. So if you feel that someone's only here for compensation, show that, but like make your voice heard in an election. Vote, run, like nominate people who you think would want to make a change. So I just wanted to make that clear.
because a lot of hands went up at the same time, I'm just going to go right to left, giving priority to people who haven't spoken before. So, next Casey.
All right. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a business manager for the student, and my views do not in any way reflect the student. You pride yourself on being a neutral newspaper, just as anyone should be. I know I'm not in support of this, neither is our editor-in-chief, Eric, but we do pride ourselves on being neutral. My thought is that the student, we put in a lot of work every week towards creating a newspaper. Yes, is some of our work fun? Yes, but when you're at 11 o'clock at night and you have to finish your newspaper within the next hour, things get a little bit stressful. And we still do it. We in no way expect compensation for the work, despite how hard or how easy it might be. And I know that anybody who has served on an executive board for any RSO has the same feeling sometimes. I think that with the SGA, there's the feeling that, yes, you're doing hard work, but also it's enjoyable at times. You want to serve the student body. That's the reason why anybody should be elected to the SGA. People need to join the SGA because they want to serve the current student body. And I know that adding a stipend might give some motivation for people to join, but I don't think there's a motivation or a lack of people who want to serve the student body. As Parker showed earlier, there are 15 freshmen roughly who are nominated and planning to run for the upcoming seats. I think that shows that there is a big interest in incoming students. There's no need to have another incentive to join the SGA. People already joining for the resume, which is sort of a wrong reason to try to join it. So there shouldn't be another bad reason that might entice bad people to join the SGA.
My direct response, we actually have a lot of open seats going on for this election. Like, yeah, it's awesome that all these rising sophomores are running, and I'm really excited to see that election go through, but that's the only election that is going through. The rising juniors don't have enough seats, and same goes with the rising seniors. So, not saying that we do deserve pay or like those seats won't get filled, but there isn't, like, it's clear to see that sometimes there isn't that like sense of people, that like sense of like group, like everyone wants to run for SGA.
Ryan?
Just a general point to direct discussion. There's a lot of consensus going on here in that there is dissent for the bill. I just want to make a suggestion that everybody consider why they are against this. If you don't feel that there should be a stipend at all, then that is a possibility. If you feel that it shouldn't come from SAF, that's another possibility to consider. And if you don't like the amounts, that's another possibility to consider. But I think everybody's saying I'm against this right now, but there's a lot of discussion that can be made on how we want to make this better, what we can do differently, what the alternative should be. And I think we should direct discussion in that way in order to figure out how we can fix this rather than why we think it's a problem, because I think that's been addressed already.
To sort of bounce off of Ryan's point here, and I've been mulling over thoughts for how to move forward from the conversations that we're having right now. And in my mind, the best move forward, and I'm not going to make any motions at this point, I'll allow the public to respond and say, yes, we like that, or no. We move to a vote, strike this bill in its entirety, and then go forward with discussions in the discussion format for our further Senate meetings to discuss compensation in any sort, whether it's a stipend, meal plans, what have you, and we can have those conversations at a later date. Advertise and publicize those conversations to the student body so that they are part of it. And from there, have a process of, if we want to develop another bill, do that with that input coming from that process.
Liam?
I would like to say I second Trevor's opinion.
It's not real.
It's not a motion, but I agree with your opinion. I think this was just too big of a bill, too important of a bill, a little too early. So I'll let someone else make the motion if they want.
Anthony?
Moves previous.
Second.
All in favor of moving to previous, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Can I see hands? All in favor of moving to previous? Raise your hands. All opposed? It does move to previous. All in favor of approving.
There's a motion on the floor.
There's, sorry?
Yeah, motion on the floor, sorry. Move to vote by roll call, please.
Second. We voted to move to previous.
Yeah, we voted to move to previous, so we
No,
can
we're
still
in.
move to vote.
It just changes how the vote is taken.
It's fine.
It just changes how the vote is taken. It should be fine.
It was 7.
Okay, so I have names.
Beth, please keep quiet so we can hear.
Emily?
I was just gonna say, all you have to do is just report who votes, like which way in the minutes.
Yeah. I have names listed according to just class year, so I'm gonna read that out loud. If you can vote that way, just to make it easy for Parker too. Sometimes I might need to read names that aren't here, but that's true, you're right. Yeah. All in favor of voting by roll call, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. First, Mokum? Mecca? Not here. Tim?
Nay.
Ryan?
Nay.
Christina? Jesse?
Nay.
John Darlock?
No.
Jared? Moving on to sophomores, Lucas?
Nay.
Shayna?
No.
Anne?
Nay.
Patrick?
Nay.
Melanie?
Nay.
Nick?
Nay.
Nay.
Leanne? Not here? Okay. Juniors, Bree? Rami?
Nay.
Chris?
Nay.
Anthony?
Nay.
John Hatter? Pat Boylan?
Nay.
Sam? Nay. Evan?
Nay.
And seniors, Chris?
Nay.
Greg?
Nay.
Trevor?
Nay.
Andy?
Nay.
Kevin?
Nay.
Johnny Akro? Here. Justin?
Nay.
Sally? Thank you. Motion does not pass. Right now, we'll be moving on in our new business. Everyone is more than welcome to hang out till discussion to continue discussing this bill, compensation, how it should move forward. Please reach out, or if you just have more ideas on how it should be done, please reach out to the people that did work up writing this bill, to your senators from your districts, etc. We do want to hear what you have to say. Just because it's voted down right now doesn't mean we don't want to hear what y'all have to say. Ryan and then Nick.
In response to that, I think that these numbers are pretty accurate of like how many, how the student body sees the SGA, especially as respect to their grade. Like, there are more juniors than sophomores, but that includes people that could be 4 to 4s, 5 to 5s next year. It's 2 grades essentially, which puts the number lower per grade than sophomores, and then sophomores is obviously lower than freshmen. So
the way I'm seeing this is, like, especially the older people, as you've been here longer, see the SGA in a different light, which I think is unfortunate in that it's, as we've seen with this bill, it's so easy to see the negative. We are trying to make a lot of initiatives on campus and trying to make a lot of progress, but oh, somebody slips up with one small thing, makes a mistake, it happens, and there's so much negative PR as opposed to positive PR. You know, it's easy to be like, oh, SGA is just that group of students that likes to shoot down budgets, like, and I think we need to change the view itself of the SGA if we really want to get more people running, and how people see that change over time.
Before I just continue in this discussion, of the remaining guests here, how many of y'all still have points to make on the compensation bill? If you want to turn around, senators, and just look at, I'm just taking a poll, just so everyone's aware. All right. Back to this discussion. Any points on talking about filling empty Senate seats? Nick?
All right, so I'm going to get this out real quick, but I would say that this is less on PR and more is just us as an SGA. I think we're too prone to using emails as any form of communication with our constituents. I think what Lucas is doing with the question that you have to ask like 2 people a week or that initiative is great. And as an SGA in its entirety, not just senators, we could just go out in person. If we have someone that we think would be great for the SGA, we could encourage them to run. Like, try and find people who you think would be good for the SGA. Encourage people in person, preferably in person, but in whatever means you can, to be involved in the SGA. And that is an issue that we don't have as much involvement as we'd like. We've got a lot of empty seats.
So Lucas?
So I think it's like on all of us. I mean, I am PR head, so I do like want to have as many people like talking about it as possible, but like it's sort of like rush SGA, honestly. It's like I personally have rushed like 9 people to join SGA next semester, and now they're all running. So like I can do as much as I can to put as many posters up on campus, but you could look at a poster and then never talk about it again and never really pay any attention to it. So it's really like talking to people is the best way to like try to get people interested in the SGA. And like next semester you'll see a lot of people that I told to run are running, and they have the spots because not enough people ran. So.
Fine. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, just really quickly, maybe for the freshman elections next semester, a really great idea that we could put into act is maybe we should table sit and literally hand out the nomination forms. You know, I know so many people early last semester like, oh, I was gonna run, but then like my printer didn't have ink, you know, and then they just didn't pick that. No, seriously, not saying that they wouldn't be a good senator, they wouldn't. But there's just these little things. If we gave them that form, like just that little push, they could be like the greatest senators ever. We just don't know because they're out of ink. But that's all I'm saying.
Liam?
I think it's probably a really good idea. Like table sitting maybe outside of Pierce, the Pierce entrance, or maybe table sitting outside of some other place. Just because, like, forget what you said. Like sending out emails, just putting up posters, people can just look at them and never think about it again. But if we actually try to open up a discussion, then we're actually connecting with that person, and we're just encouraging them.
Again, a reminder that there are non-SGA members here who do want to speak on compensation. Anne?
I'd like to table this discussion and reopen the discussion on the compensation bill. Senators, feel free to speak, cabinet as well, but I'd really love to hear what these guests have to say. Thanks, guys.
Emily?
Just make sure you're stating like what specifically you're tabling it, so definitely it was the next meeting.
It's just a discussion. It doesn't need to.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
I was just using that simple term. That's the only thing. All right. Thanks, guys.
Anything from the senators? Cabinet.
Okay, so before I actually say this, I'd like to say I understand how difficult it is to alter bylaws or to alter the Constitution of the SGA, but speaking from my own experience of attempting to actually become a senator, along with a few, and we actually found that it was incredibly difficult both this year and the last, due to our own obligations as upperclassmen to get the required number of signatures. And I feel that this might be perhaps shown by the statistics you have, where a lot of freshmen show interest, but as they take on more obligations as upperclassmen and have harder classes where they're required to do more work, it becomes a lot more difficult to involve themselves, not particularly as a senator, but specifically in getting signatures to become one, to run. I just felt that was an important point to make. Take it as you go.
Judge Smith?
As much as I can appreciate that, and I attest to the fact that I think all of us have some difficulty getting signatures, I feel if you're not able to even put in the time to get signatures for people that will support you in a lot of time frame, you probably don't have enough time to put into the Senate.
Not to be
No,
yeah, it's a valid point.
Any more discussion points? David? David?
Oh, okay. So I felt like the whole proposition was on this sort of foundational hypothesis that if you were to give senators $100 for the semester, that would somehow incentivize them further and maybe disincentivize them from pursuing other time obligations that would conflict with their job. I don't know if that's quite right. I think the way that you found that, you arrived at that 100 number wasn't the right way to go about that, where you looked at the University of Connecticut or something, where you said the e-board had like 1,200 and the rest had 800, and that's kind of 400. I feel like by undershooting that so as to fit more cleanly within our budget, you almost miss the point of what that money does, and that's dissuading senators from pursuing another job, which they would need for money. I don't think $100 will actually do that. Any part-time job you could probably make $100 in a week or so. I think it almost misses the point to give you guys $100 and then say that that will help you pursue your jobs better as senators.
Natalie?
Yeah, so what I have to say isn't necessarily about the bill itself, but rather not attacking, but sort of tackling the problem that was the motivation behind it. Hearing Tommy's great statement tonight actually brought back a lot of painful memories of my own, of working 40 hours a week, never getting to cook my own meals, getting shouted at a lot, turning down research and employment opportunities, all for the sake of producing 2 shows over the course of a year. Or working on the Red and Gray Experience 2 years in a row, or all of the other things that I've done that made me want to tear my hair out. But what I learned from Tommy's statement, and from the Pay Me Back campaign that was on Facebook, and from all of the leaders that we heard from tonight, is that this problem is a lot bigger than I thought it was. All of us suffer from massive burnout. For the sake of the school. And while I'm really relieved to find out that it's not just me who has been suffering this is garbage. This is like the shittiest thing ever. And I believe that, the problem that this compensation bill is aiming to resolve is the fact that student leaders are suffering. You guys are suffering, and I know it, because I haven't done your jobs, but I've worked similar hours for causes that I believe in, and I totally understand. And I think that compensation is a great way to address that, but I think there are other ways that we could also, in addition to the compensation bill, sort of look into addressing this. What did I write? I said, the problem that the compensation bill aims to address is the fact that student leaders are pressured constantly to sacrifice their quality of life to give to the school, when we already give to the school about $60,000 per year. Moving forward, I would love to see some sort of conversation, and even though I'm only here for about 40 more days, I'd love to be a part of it too, about how we can prevent burnout from happening to our students on campus. I mean, like, there are so many different conferences for different problems that campuses face. Is there a conference for this? Literature, speakers? Maybe this could even be like the Leadership Connect subject for next semester. Maybe looking into, providing any kinds of resources. And one of the resources that I was really thinking of, and Tommy, thank you so much for having the courage to mention your struggle with depression. I think a lot of you may be surprised or not surprised at all to find that mental illness and a an accidental lack of care for mental health in general really accompany a lot of experiences here at Stevens, and therefore a lot of leadership experiences here at Stevens, and maybe even one of the resources that we could look into is strengthening our counseling services. Anyway, those are the ideas that I have. I'm sorry that y'all are suffering. I hate it. I know you hate it too, but I think that this is something that I would love to see a conversation about.
I do want to respond to that. Thank you for your words. I want to let you know that tomorrow the cabinet is meeting with Mary Beth Murphy, who's the Vice President of Student Affairs, and a massive topic. Basically, the majority of our topic will be on health services and counseling, because I think both of those are pretty ridiculous. I think the fact that there's only a doctor from 1 to 4 on Mondays to Thursdays, like literally, sorry, but what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. And then for counseling, like if you're on co-op, that's seriously screwed. Like they're not there during times that co-op students are there. During finals, I remember sitting with my friend in the library and having them literally have a panic attack, and I don't have the credentials to take care of this. And she was saying, why aren't they open longer during finals? So we've talked with Sarah Klein on this, but now we want to take it to a higher power. Talking about increasing hours during finals, doing passive programming like puppies on campus and massage chairs on campus during finals. So know that the cabinet specifically and the SGA as a whole is taking that into our highest regard.
Ryan?
Kind of going off what Tommy just said, and our wonderful statement that we just had, summarizing what I think a lot of people are feeling here. I think this says a lot about how people feel about the administration, the fact that we are paying so much to go to the school, and I see how much, especially the cabinet, puts into working with the administration and trying to change things, and I know there are members of the administration that do really care and are trying to help with this, but it seems at this point painful how much effort people are putting into trying to get change. Just even to get the finance department to consider our input for the SAF, I know Houston's been working on that, is absurd when it says in the rules that we are supposed to help determine this. It's something that we are supposed to be able to do, and they're still having a hard time with that. And I think we have to realize is like, I think we need to be more straightforward with the administration and the people that will listen, that we feel like half the reason we have to put in all of this effort and so much energy into making change is because we feel like we're not being heard, and a lot of the administration just doesn't care. And it's like, if we're paying all this money, like, as Tommy said, where the fuck is it going? What is this doing? We should have some input here.
You know, this opens an even greater initiative I think that none of us really considered when we came in tonight. But maybe instead of working so hard to try and get the Stevens community more involved in general, we need to talk to administration to allow us to be more involved. This school sucks when it comes to the amount of hours you have to put in for work. I mean, it's a tech school, it's fair. But that's why it's so hard for people to get involved in general. We have to really like scrape away and get people to come to events and stuff. Pizza has to be an event for people to come. I mean, that's how it is. I'm sorry. But we need to go at a higher level. There's things that we can't control. But that's a huge so.
Hannah, direct response?
Yeah, part of that, and I've dealt with upper administration a lot, as you all know, and mainly the academic side of it. And part of that is the design spine that we have. The academics, we're getting a Bachelor of Engineering degree from this university, which is very unheard of at a lot of other universities. Usually you get a Bachelor of Science in engineering, so that kind of plays a role in this entire kind of limited amount of time we all have. I don't know how much that will change on an academic standpoint, but I think there are other ways we can improve both the academics and just student life in general by working with upper administration and just by being the very passionate students we have seen we are.
Justin?
I'll also make this really quick because I know like there's a lot of people in the back that want to talk. But in regards to like the time commitment, like I do agree with Natalie, like it's insane like how many student leaders like devote so much time and energy to like other causes as well as their schoolwork. And I know that in comparison to like a lot of other universities, like the credit load for Stevens is insane. And I think that maybe one of the initiatives we should work towards is like decreasing the credit loads and make it match other institutions because it is insane the amount of work that we do. And in regards to like the budget and the fact that we don't have any money, I know that, I don't know like how well known this is, but I'm pretty sure that for, correct me if I'm wrong, like for part of the money that we're using, like some of it like goes to immediately like take away some of the debt that was like for that ex-president that embezzled a lot of money. So like the reason that like we pay a shit ton of money now and like we don't see any like anything for it really is because part of that money is to like pay off the debt from that ex-president that embezzled a shit ton of money from the school. So.
Direct response? Ann?
First of all, I know this is getting very honest and very passionate, but please watch your language.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Secondly, I don't think this is necessarily a matter of like credits or discussion about academics. Like there are other times to discuss that. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. But those were 2 points that I wanted to make real quick.
Dan?
I think this discussion is moving into an overarching topic or just a very general culture among the administration of not valuing the undergrad body as much as some other parts of the university, and we could tackle this issue, well, through many, many ways, like even going far as like boycotting certain things. Like I know when the dining issue came up a few weeks ago, some people were saying like we should also boycott dining, but I think this is a very large discussion. Maybe right now at like almost 11:30 at night isn't the best place to have this potentially very large discussion.
Rami?
I was basically going to say the same thing. We should address our guests in the back and have their hands up for a long time.
Sam?
That was my motion. That's the
Okay. Now for that to happen, all that needs to happen is senators and cabinet members don't raise your hands.
My name is Ellie. I just want to ask about the compensation bill. Before we talk about any of the motives that are involved in the bill, where the money would be coming from. I know you guys said it's not confirmed that it would be coming from SAF, but do you have any idea of, one, who would be determining where the funding is coming from, two, like where in the budget it would actually be coming from, if it's not coming from SAF or if it is. I just wanted to know, like, before we even talk about why it exists, how it would exist.
Do you have any direct response, Rami?
So the SAF is one of the options we explored. Like it all goes back to the fact that this bill is, yes, people have said 1,000 times tonight. I'm not really sure. We are meeting with Christina Mel and Chris Nancy on Wednesday, I think, to address that concern.
Tommy?
So after hearing all the discussion, especially all the input from like RSOs, and I also like just to put some reference, I used to be like CCSI, which is now BPSI, so the person who like looks over RSOs. I actually don't feel comfortable necessarily having it come from the SAF, at least in the SAF's current numerical value. However, I don't know. I'm not really sure where it would come from. It could come from student life, although that might still be from the SAF, so that's like an interesting road to take. It's really something that needs to be discussed with the Senate and with student life. I think now this meeting is going to be more posed towards, if we're going to do this, what are our alternate options? Is it that dining, which is residence life, does this? Is it that student life works with dining? Is it just the Office of Student Affairs? It's a conversation that needs to be had.
Sundays?
Yeah, as BPSI, I definitely won't support this bill if it's coming from the SAF. Like, regardless if like that's going to end up being our only option, I just don't think it's fair enough to take that money away from organizations and allocate it to the SGA, because we did cut so much and we're still in the red. So definitely not from the SAF. I would not support that.
Rami?
I know those are sort of vague answers to a very important question, but keep in mind student life has seen this and we are talking about them with it more in the coming weeks. So like, be assured that like I'm sure it is possible somehow. And students will be kept in the loop. So yeah, sorry for not having a concrete answer, but like student life has been negotiations. Yeah.
Darby?
Hi everyone, so I'm Darby. If you're not aware, I used to serve on the Senate, and I chose to step away last semester after I felt that the previous cabinet, as well as members of this cabinet, abused their power, and this was a direct result of the extension of the voting period on the constitutional amendment to gain the extra votes necessary in order to do this name change and cabinet and committee rearrangement. I feel that this is an organization completely lacking integrity. At no fault to its senators, I think a lot of you do your jobs. I've heard, I'm not sure if this is exactly true, that most of you hadn't heard of this bill until Thursday night when the docket was sent out. And I think that shows that your cabinet does not have trust in you and you don't have the open modes of communication that you should. I have to ask you, I know you're moving away towards having the SAF fund this, yet you don't know where this money will come from. Even though you feel as if you want to take it from the SAF, what makes you think that you are entitled to money that other students your age are going out and working 2 and 3 jobs for and supporting themselves and putting themselves through school? You take this position on because you're serving your community. You want to serve and make the community a better place. You're dedicating your time. As a member of the honor board, I spoke with Michelle, one of my other general board members. I can't speak on behalf of the entire board, but we feel that we dedicate our time because it's something we believe in. Our advisors also dedicate their time. Christy DeMel, Dean Berkeley, they have full-time jobs. They give their time to us out of the goodness of their hearts. I think that's something you all should keep in perspective. I think it's a poor comparison to compare this Senate to the United States government. This is a small tech school on the Hudson River, okay? Kind of, pretty much, we're all very similar people when we go here. I don't know why you would compare yourself to leaders of the free world. I'm sorry, that's just completely ludicrous. Again, I served on the budget committee of this organization, and I watched us cut budgets from student organizations for doing really great things. I know ESW last semester wanted to promote solar energy on campus through a smoothie cart, and we cut money from, I want to say it was like an environmental engineering sort of club, because for a field trip. I mean, these are simple things we could have done. Oh, and again, the link asked for a new camera because their camera hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. It's 2017. The camera's over 10 years old. The technology's really changed. We can't skim money for that, but we're gonna look for money to pay for our cabinet. Again, comparing this to other schools, we're not like other schools. And if you want to get paid to do your job, clearly you're not doing it for the right reasons. If you'd like to get paid, I'd like to see you actually try to change the culture around the school, bringing up mental health. I've seen no strides towards that. You're mentioning are, but the way you make those changes is you actually, represent the things you claim to believe in, and treating others fairly and being kind. You need to do that yourself if you want that to happen around this place. And I know that's not necessarily the case when it comes to this cabinet. Again, if you want, I'm sorry, you don't deserve this money, period, end of discussion. Also, based off the fact that the cabinet is chosen by the president and the student body has no say over that, you don't know why these people are in these positions and for what reasons. I'm sure you're all qualified, but justify that to the student body. You don't deserve it, period.
Anu? Just kind of to go off of what Darby said earlier about the cabinet and the Senate, like understanding what's happening, I just feel like there's been a lack of transparency, because the first time I heard about this bill was through a Facebook page, not through my district senator or anyone on the SGA. So I feel like in order to better serve your student body, there should be motions taken forward to be more transparent and explain what's happening. Sure, things might have been being passed around the grapevine. I understand that. I've been part of organizations where information hasn't had a chance to get through towards the entire general body, but taking steps forward to assure people that they will have a voice and not just furthering personal agendas. I think that we should focus on what benefits the students, not just comparing students to other schools and saying that, oh, we saw XYZ do this, that's why we're going to do this. I think that a lot of students have had a negative understanding of this, and again, I understand that someone said meetings have to happen every Sunday of the semester, but having the meeting today was not the best of a choice, and just I don't know, I just didn't think that this has been an accessible platform for many students to voice their concerns. So I just wish that there were more steps taken for the SGA to be more transparent with the student body that it's supposed to be representing.
Andy?
So this is something I sort of touched on in the SGA debate. Well, I'm going to talk to a news point. There's a lot to unpack with Darby's point, and I don't feel adequate in addressing it. I feel like that should be a cabinet thing. But I do feel something that I addressed in the SGA Facebook group, the official group that we have, is trying to figure out a plan of action. And I wrote this back on Saturday. It was tough because it is Easter weekend. Not everyone can be here as attentive. I understand that frustration. But I suggested things like we ensure the students who are passionate have the opportunity to voice their concerns about this bill, resolution. Work with the most active students in the discourse in devising a better, more fair, and equal plan for compensation. Because I do believe there is a notion that students should be compensated for their work. Obviously, it should not be the sole determinant. But like being someone in WCPR, for example, where we do mobile units, we do lights and sounds, and that's a volunteer position. I am sure that we can continue working that as a volunteer position because we love to figure out how lights and sound work, and we do have all this great experience. But as a humanities major, you know that the creative arts isn't, there's a general mythos about being compensated for creative work and putting value to the efforts that are a little bit more left-brain or a little bit more on the passionate side of things. I do think there's a real idea for compensating students here. I just don't think, and the cabinet can agree, it was executed well in this one field. And additionally to that, I also suggested we publicize our accomplishments via social media more often. That can be just like adding more people to help Lucas out doing his incredible job. We should publicize our open efforts like district emails, our quick surveys that we've been doing, our student affairs survey. So if you have questions and criticisms, feedback of any Office of Student Affairs, which I believe includes this Office of Student Life, we do have a survey for that that's completely anonymous, or if you want to put your name through there. And also our open forums like these. So I think there just needs to be the next SGA meeting or something in conjunction with you all, or maybe that's an email blast to the Doug-Sync list of participants, where we ask students, how did you feel about today? Get some qualitative feedback instead of quantitative. And ensure that these are efforts that are going to be addressed, including the checks and balances we have within ourselves in the office.
Tim?
He basically said what I was just going to say. Anu, right? You brought up the point that like you felt that we weren't transparent enough in showing that this was on our agenda, all that it was uploaded late, people didn't really know about it. And you're right, while it is public, like it is on Doug-Sync, it technically wasn't advertised as much as you felt. This has been a big discussion as to how many emails should we send out a semester to our districts. We have a ton of problems where we send out surveys and people just ignore them because they don't want to do them. Some people, I think that's I have an error where someone says they don't receive my emails. I think they block me because I send district emails. Oh, their mailbox may be full. But I mean, there are certain things we need to get around that. We would love your recommendations as to how we could speak with you other than emails. If you'd like that, you have to understand that you may love getting 100 emails a day. Some people don't. And that's just how it is. Direct response. Go ahead.
Yeah, direct response.
I mean, like, it's kind of like a question response kind of thing. I don't know. Like, I understand that like people don't like receiving emails, but I feel like unless you just sorry, I'm just trying to like collect my thoughts and phrase it in a way that's understandable to everyone because my thoughts are a jumble. But I don't think you should be more concerned about how many emails an individual receives. Like I understand that there are times when I just see like 50 emails from Stevens, blah 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 blah, and I choose to ignore them. But what my main issue is with the fact that like the effort didn't seem to be placed just because I didn't get any kind of information from my district senator or any other senator saying that, hey, I didn't even know that the cabinet went to these conferences. I didn't know that they learned these things from the conferences. I'm not even sure if there was like a presentation done from the cabinet telling the Senate that, hey, this is what happened, this is what kind of ideas that we learned from here. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of just like creating a platform where we can, maybe it's me not being as informed about what the SGA does, and I understand my fault in that, but I'm just saying create a platform where we're able to engage in discussion, where we can see like the minutes that happen here. I don't know if these exist already, this is me coming from an ignorant point, but just create a platform where maybe I can access presentations that are given here or the big discussions that are happening and see the different events and conferences that the cabinet or the Senate members are taking part in, so that I understand what active steps are being taken to improve my student experience here at campus. Like, if I'm not sure if this happened, but like when the cabinet went to this conference, they saw that other schools were getting compensated. I'm asking, did they come back and tell the Senate, hey, this is what happened, and we think this might be something that Stephen should look into before this bill, whatever was proposed. So just like having that open line of communication in which one idea that you learn gets transferred to another group and then kind of spreads out from there, so that little by little the student body is aware of these initiatives being taken rather than just like being told that, hey, SGA is trying to steal your money. You know what I mean? So just like creating that channel where we feel comfortable to understand what you're doing and you feel comfortable to tell us what you want to do for the betterment of our community.
Do you have a
yeah, I need to change your memory card.
I have direct responses, Jesse, and then Tim. Rescind the direct response? Jesse?
I was going to say that there was no presentation, at least to my knowledge, given about the conference, and also all the minutes and documents and the bills and bylaws and all that. It's all on DuckSync, open public to everyone. So.
Yeah, it's just that I didn't know.
Okay, well.
So like maybe, sorry, I don't know if I'm like ruining protocol or whatever. Sorry, I just like want to voice my opinion. Just tell me to shut up if you want me to. But maybe when your district senator is introducing themselves at the beginning of the semester, say, hey, if you're concerned about everything that's happening, these are the links that you can follow, and literally create a little tagline at the end of your email that you send out every time, saying, please always like feel free to refer to this link, because that's what the organizations that I'm in part of do with minutes and every event that are happening. So I know that I have a reference point to go back to. So maybe you can take steps like this to create that open sense of communication. This could have been prevented.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's something that we'll consider. I know I'll do that for my district for sure. But I guess now you know. Unfortunate that it happened late, but
yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, I don't mean to like get aggressive.
Ryan?
I just had a direct response to that. I know a lot of the senators didn't know about this bill. I didn't know it was coming right now either. However, Nick did reach out to me to mention some possibility of this idea, gauge what I had thought of the bill after they attended the conference. And from what I gathered from him, they were considering the idea, and similarly to how Melanie proposed the, a draft idea of what they wanted to do for the smoking policy. That was the intention for the meeting. So while a bill was written up to make it more official and to just iron out a lot of like this technicalities of what a first draft would have been, this was intended to be a discussion. It was supposed to be opened up just to actually make the rest of the senators aware. That was the point of this meeting. It wasn't to be, oh, we'll put it on the docket, we'll surprise all the senators, be like, hey, we're gonna vote on this today, and go over it. It was meant to be brought up to us, made aware to us, and then voted on, changed, taking care of the rest of it later on. This was supposed to be the presentation to us. So the fact that it came out on Thursday or whatever, that this was being brought up at the meeting, was news to us because it wasn't, we were supposed to discuss it at this point. So it was just a matter of somebody put it in the wrong spot, we recognized the mistake, and it was supposed to be a discussion.
Anne?
I want to clarify something. It's not, this is actually a common thing. Our cabinet meets separately every week, Wednesdays at 9:15. So the fact that we were alerted what was on the docket for the upcoming Sunday on Thursday is not like them trying to be tricky towards the Senate. Like, that's actually a very transparent thing that we do every week. So I wanted to defend the cabinet in that matter. And going to one of your other points, I actually chose not to reach out to my districts this past weekend because I knew what was going on social media, and I felt like some of the other senators and cabinet members have said tonight that it, for lack of a better phrase, like it really wouldn't have mattered what we said to you. Everyone was raising pitchforks, attacking senators and cabinet members directly, which is, in my opinion, very unprofessional and not the best way to make an argument. So, I mean, you can like be sure that I'm going to reach out to my district tonight to discuss what has gone here at the meeting. I will definitely put out the SITTV links to make sure that it is more transparent in this matter, but I don't want you to think that the cabinet was trying to trick over the Senate and then the SGA as a whole body was trying to trick over anyone. That is just the timeline of how things are brought up.
Tommy?
So I'd like to respond first to Darby's points. I think constructive feedback is really important, but I think those came from a place of hate, which is not helpful. I challenge you to ask every single senator in this room and ask them what they think without me present. So ask them individually if they believe that we are not transparent, or if we're not doing our job, if we don't deserve anything. I truly ask you to ask them and then actually come up with an educated response. As for Anu, I think you make some really valid points. So the first one was talking about that you didn't know a lot of things that were going on. That's something we talk about actually all the time on cabinet, and it's something Parker is working on with a few people. And I would love if you could actually help us with this. We're developing a website, something that we think would be really valuable to students, so that they can go on this website and have articles all the time on exactly what we're doing, what initiatives are going on. They could click, oh, smoking, okay, I can find a little bit more about that. So that's something we're going to work on heavily throughout the summer. So your point is heard, is super valid, and it's something we're working on. As for the release of this, I believe I've said this multiple times, and I really can't stress it enough that the intention, the exact order of intention was this was going to be the meeting where we discuss this bill, this compensation idea with the Senate, and they were going to give us feedback. Then we were going to move to the Office of Student Life with the feedback from the Senate and get their feedback and figure out how reasonable this was and if we could actually do this and in what way we could do this, which would also inquire if it's coming from the student activities fee, it's coming from wherever it's coming from. And then we were going to distribute this information through the districts to the student body so that they could come to the following meeting and voice their opinion after a perfect, or not perfect, but a better bill and a more thought out bill was brought before.
Kat?
Also, again, with transparency, we're trying, we do have minutes, and that's a really good point. It'd be awesome for us to attach them every week, but it's also a very fine line. I'm sure if I posted on the if we emailed every student that hey, Tommy, Kat, and Nick went to a conference, not a lot of people care that much. And it's awesome that you do, and I honestly appreciate that so much, because so often it's so hard to find people that are passionate about SGA. And once again, we're sorry that you guys feel this way. I know, this was, again, wasn't how we planned on it. We didn't want it to seem like we were being sneaky, and obviously it came out that way. We're sorry that it's 9 p.m. on Sunday. I know it's Easter. Sadly I didn't get to go home, but people enjoy spending time with their families, and it's just in our bylaws that we have to do this. We weren't trying to, this wasn't out of place of greed or hate or trying to be sneaky. We did have a set plan, and once again, we messed up. We put it in the wrong place. We weren't expecting it to blow up this much, and once again, we're human. We're trying our best. We have public relations as a committee, and it's one of our largest committees to reach out. We're gonna take over the library board in a few days. We have, I know when I was a senator, we made sure, I always said, if you have any questions, comments, or concern, reach out to me. The emails I get from Ann every week tend to say the same thing. We're trying, honest, and I love that you're giving us feedback, but just know that we care. And I'd just like to point out the fact that the Senate just voted to deny, themselves getting paid. So I think that's actual proof of how much we care. And, yeah.
I'm just going to build on it really quickly. Also, I think it's been said multiple times in this meeting that the intention was this to be for future SGA members. So no one was voting on this to give it to themselves. That was the intention. I will admit that the bill is not very clear on that, which is a mistake. One of the mistakes, because this was in its infancy. But that's what we had discussed. Nick can definitely verify that. It was Nick's idea. That we were not going to vote on this for ourselves. So there couldn't be a greed element there, because I can't get the money. I just think that future presidents and future cabinets and future senates should, or thought at least, that they should get some type of compensation.
Justin?
I just like want to mention that like a lot of people still like have comments and concerns that they want to like say, and that we should like keep the discussion like like circular. So if there's any like anything new like people should mention, like please raise your hand. But like I don't think it's like good to like keep mentioning like, the same things like, over and over again. It really just drags on the conversation like longer than it needs to be.
I have behind Colin. I'm sorry, you've already spoken.
Hi, sorry, my name's Julia. I just wanted to say, like, to open up, I definitely didn't come here to question the intent of the cabinet, and I do recognize that I do think you guys are doing your job, and you're doing the job of that. Just to open up, just my issue with the bill was that, like Andy said, like, theater, I forget, I'm sorry, Natalie, I remember, sorry. My name is theater. Highest honor. Sorry. There's a lot of SITTVs who just put a lot of hours and like a lot of time into the organizations that we are a part of, and a lot of us seek that seek like intrinsic performance. So like being able to put on our shows, being able to put on our events and things like that. I understand why the proposition for compensation is there, just to I guess help out generally our welfare. I was sick for like 2 straight years when I was running KSA, and just like generally like what I did on campus. And I would have liked to like not have to drop $20 on NICOL a semester. But like just to address, I guess, who is getting compensation, that I think is something that is a little bit more controversial in my eyes, because as much as I do recognize the cabinet puts in a ton of work, there's not really any way for us to gauge who is putting in what work and how much work is being put in. Therefore, we don't know exactly who we should be giving this money to. Then that's a question of how many people are being given some kind of compensation, how many people are eligible for compensation, and how much money they are getting. Because to be able to quantify how much someone's work is putting into a stipend or some kind of compensation is a little bit controversial in my eyes. Personally, I don't think this is like a super feasible solution because of the fact that there's so many of us who put in way more work than we're supposed to on campus, but we do that because we want to. To only offer it to the SGA or only the honor board, that's kind of where I see things going wrong and things possibly getting out of hand, because then it's like, oh, we want to open it up to everyone who deserves it. Then how do we determine who deserves it and where does that money come from? Because we already don't know where the money is coming from just to give it to the SGA. Because like $1,000 is 10 committee heads, and $1,000 is a $200 event for someone's whole campus that probably got caught at the last one. That's my
Bernadette? No, sorry.
Brenna.
What's your name?
Brenna.
Brenna. Sorry, I thought I heard someone say Bernadette before. My bad.
So I think like one of the main things that cause this problem is a lot of district senators and like some confusion about when this should have been sent out and like what kind of tagline it should have been given. Like I got an email from my district senator on last Monday. I think Andrew said she didn't find out about it until Thursday. Darby never got an email from her district senator. So I think like there should be like a more clear policy about what gets sent out when, just so like all students hear about things at the same time and when they're actually supposed to, because my email just said like there's a proposition in the Senate. It didn't say this is open for discussion, and I heard about it last Monday, whereas some people like never heard about it. So I think, at least for important things like this, there should be better guidelines for district senators about like, here's the email you should send out, here's what's going on, instead of letting them like coordinate themselves on something important and potentially controversial.
Nick?
Yeah, this is something that has been an issue and has actually been brought up in the past. It's a bill that I wrote that enables the PR head to determine if they so deem anything so important, they can say, like mandate all senators, you have to send this out. And that becomes part of your senator requirements, so, meaning if they didn't do that, that might be grounds for impeachment. That being said, this bill wasn't, like, the reason that it was never sent out, so your point of us sending out information in like a consistent and like reliable manner is very valid. The reason in this case that it wasn't sent out was because it was never, like, this was never supposed to be public at this point. It was never even supposed to be something, like, this was being brought up to senators, which is why it wasn't sent out by other senators or to their districts, or the PR head asked senators to send it out. But we do have some mechanism to like ensure that senators are sending out uniform emails.
Dr. Spence?
Yeah, my point was more that I did hear this from my district senator like a week ago.
So
it shouldn't have been sent out. Like there needs to be better guidelines on what not to send out, as well as maybe it was just one district senator.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Any senator can send an email at any point about whatever they'd like to, which is why I was saying yes, we can mandate anything. But if a senator gets wind of something before another senator, or they're working on their own initiative, like say Melanie wanted to, for a smoking initiative, she wanted to just send out a survey to her district. That would be something that only her district would hear about, but it's, I mean, that's practically encouraged in the Senate, right? We want to gauge interest from our district in the first place. So that kind of ties in with why some people may have heard of it and some others didn't, and why it wasn't deemed something so important that it would be sent out to everyone uniformly. I hope that clarifies what you mentioned.
Any senators? Casey?
I just have a general question. Along the lines of maintenance compensation, it says that there would be oversight by the oversight committee on like if you're fulfilling your duties as your specific position. I was wondering if there was any thought on like what specifically those guidelines are going to be and how they're going to be measured, or if it's just like as your job descriptions are in the bylaws.
Rami?
So to reply to that, so there are set guidelines in, well, the bill sets certain requirements, and it creates, well, the requirement is that the oversight committee distributes a stipend contract to each official who would be compensated, which would have a detailed list of requirements they would need to fulfill. It would reference SGA bylaws, SGA constitution, and all the requirements set forth in the governing documents. Had the official been brought up for impeachment at any point, where the bill also made it easier for people to be brought up for impeachment because in SSC requirement that, or it sets not fulfilling duties assigned to you by a committee head as grounds for impeachment, they would not receive their stipend. So it does set some pretty stringent requirements, and members of the oversight committee are the ones who vote who think someone for impeachment, and the members of the oversight committee are elected by the entire Senate. So there's a fair amount of, like a lot of people come together to sort of get that to happen. And it's I'm sorry, I don't know if it feels like before you really didn't hold it out.
Colin?
Morning. So, yeah, we do have 2 more minutes until it officially becomes morning. So, a point that I was ruminating on after I made my initial point was the idea of oversight, and in order to have something like this in place, you do need to have a pretty strong oversight system. So I was just looking into, because I know we have senator expectations, so I started trying to find all of the expectation documents. I was just curious, have you guys developed expectations for the cabinet, speaker, or released expectations yet for the committees and what's supposed to happen? Because I couldn't find those documents on the Duck Sync. And if not, those should probably be considered before any sort of like stipend thing. Basically the point I'm trying to get at, make sure your oversight is like super airtight before doing something like this, or stipends can get abused and given to people who are just skating by.
Yeah, so I, for some reason, had a sneaking suspicion this would come up. So this is something we've discussed a lot, and I think having been on 2 cabinets, it gives me some perspective on if like the cabinet should have an expectations doc. I think that like, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think we universally understand that we shouldn't. just because of like the definition of the cabinet versus the definition of the Senate. It's a lot more subjective. Our roles are subjective. Also, I'd like to read directly from the Constitution on the executive branch. So all executive and administrative duties performed by the SGA shall be the responsibility of the executive branch, and all related powers therefrom shall be vested in the office of the president. The executive branch shall consist of the president and the cabinet. The members of the cabinet shall consist of, and it says our positions. So basically, the power of the cabinet is vested in the president. So what Matt Hunt expects from me as CCSI is different than what I might expect for Sundus as PPSI. It changes per cabinet because the cabinet takes on different initiatives, takes on different goals. However, our bylaws and constitution are very, very explicit over the roles of the cabinet and things they have to do. So it's actually fairly easy to impeach a cabinet member if they're not doing their job, which is addressed in the bill because if impeachment is brought up, they no longer get the stipend. So let's say Sundus is not chairing the committee on student interest. She's not having subcommittee council meetings. She's not keeping the subcommittee heads accountable, right? She's not being one of the chairs of the budgeting committee. Hannah's not helping out with academic affairs. She's not helping out with, academic rights, right? She's not working with the student advisory board. She's not doing those things. Parker's not taking minutes. There are like very explicit things that if we don't do them, we can get impeached, and therefore it would be that we do not get the stipend. So it's something that's been discussed, and it just doesn't seem to make very much sense. It also like explicitly outlines in the Constitution that we have to have these meetings each week. We have to attend these meetings. Like things like that are already outlined in our Constitution and bylaws. They're very explicit.
And to talk about committees, obviously that's my area of expertise. There is an SGA Vice President committee head expectations. I had a meeting with each individual who was a head of a committee just to make sure and sat down that they knew it. Luckily, a lot of them were returning, so they already kind of knew the drill. But those are in place. I'm surprised to see that they're not in duck sync. I'll put them there, hopefully. Yeah, we will. We'll do that. And I'm sorry that they weren't, but they're in place, and they know about them, and they do a good job following them.
Casey, do you have a direct response?
So you said that there's expectations that are clearly defined in, like, for example, like targeting committees, things like that, and then there's another set of things like based on different initiatives that you work on, there's different responsibilities that you're held accountable for. And while I understand that there are things that are very plainly laid out, how, like you said that the other side is very subjective. So as far as like conflict of interest and things like that, how would that work with like your initiatives that you're doing? Because I know I'm not fixing this right. So you can do all of the things that are exactly prescribed to you, and I feel that if you do those things, I feel like that can change based on cabinet, like you said, on like law things that people do. So like, how do you quantify someone doing like bare minimum as a cabinet member versus someone doing like 5 million other subjective things that might really qualify them for getting more compensation than someone who does nothing. Not nothing, but like literally bare minimum.
Sorry. You're asking me, right?
Kind of, yeah.
I'm still like a little confused. I mean, if someone's doing bare minimum, they would likely like get impeached. But like, it's really hard to explain how like different cabinets take on different initiatives. And like, it's not like senators have like very quantifiable things. They have to serve in the committee. They have to attend this many meetings. It's like those things are much more quantifiable, where ours are much more like qualifiable. I guess is the right word for that. I think a senator might. I guess it's a little more difficult for a senator to speak on this, just because I haven't been on the cabinet. But I think there is a mutual understanding there, where it's like they're just different. And I would love for a senator to speak on this if they can.
Try.
Rami?
So it's worth noting that so in order to impeach someone would have to bring their report to the oversight committee of the SGA, and they would investigate it. And I'm on the oversight committee, and I've never seen a student investigation recently, but I review it very thoroughly, like looking at the situation, see different sides of it, and kind of come to conclusions if we want to bring for impeachment. And impeachment doesn't have to be an extremely like objective thing. Like if someone, let's say I believe a member of the cabinet isn't fulfilling their duties correctly, they haven't violated a specific chairman or governing documents, they could still end up being brought for impeachment. We can still discuss it, and if it warrants them being removed from their position, that could still happen. So yes, there may not always be concrete policy that people are violating, but it is still possible. And there is that trust in the oversight committee to be reasonable and bring people for impeachment when they have, lacked in fulfilling their duties. Does that make sense?
Melanie?
Well, I love all the work that we do. I love the work that every other club, every other executive board, every other person does for this community. I really do not feel like compensation in the form of monetary is necessary for the SGA.
Trevor?
I'm sorry, we were on the subject of cabinet and discussing the subjective versus objective requirements for impeachment. And I want to echo Colin's sort of uneasiness about that. It is a little bit uneasy to me that there are not more laid out objective requirements of cabinet positions as opposed to where would you see that in the Senate? It's all well and good to be able to have it be so subjective, and I trust the oversight committee to take those cases seriously, but at the same time, just in general, objective requirements are always better, in my opinion, to be able to bring people up on. That makes sense.
Do you have a direct response or a point?
I do have a direct response. I do as well, but I'd allow Nick. No.
Nick?
I was gonna give you precedence. Using the word, and other people have been using this word, objective. There are objective things that all of the cabinet need to do, just like there are objective things that the senators need to do. Optimally, and I'm not going to say whether that is or isn't the case right now, but optimally, if this bill were to pass and we found some way to give some sort of stipend or compensation to the cabinet, the objective would be enough to say that you're doing your job. That's how it is right now. The bare minimum is still doing your job, and for all of them. So to add more to that, to say who's working more and who's doing what, it's very difficult to quantify who's good at the position. What would you propose? That in order for one of the cabinet members to be, doing their job, they have to be working on 5 different other initiatives at all times? Or is it 5 per month? Or is it 7 in the entire term?
Can I answer the question?
Yes, Trevor.
Maybe. I don't know the answer. And you described objective requirements as the objective requirement is doing your job, but since judging whether you're doing your job or not is a subjective judgment, it's inherently not objective.
Which is my point of what you're saying. That who determines who's doing their job objectively?
If we write down requirements like you suggested there, we can maybe explore making it more objective. I don't know specific requirements.
This is getting circular.
Tommy. I think the answer here is, right, we could write a cabinet expectations doc, but you have to remember that the senator expectations doc is an addendum to the bylaws. It is part of our governing documents. Our governing documents are very, and I read them, and I imagine you have, but if you read over them, they're very clear over the responsibilities of the cabinet. It's very laid out in our bylaws, in our constitution. It's explicit, our expectations. Of course, the amount of initiatives we take on and things like that are subjective, because maybe Sundus, I keep using, I'm sorry. Maybe Sundus, because you're great. Maybe Sundus has one really awesome idea she wants to put all of her effort into, but maybe Parker has a ton of different ideas that are smaller, that are equally as beneficial, and that's why it is so different in our positions, and that's why we don't have an expectations doc, because our governing documents are very explicit on our expectations.
All right, I saw Greg, Rami, and Andy.
I sort of have a response.
A direct response?
Yeah. So, I don't know, I'm just reading over the Constitution and bylaws again, and yeah, the expectations are outlined, but they're also outlined for the Senate, and they're not, so the major things that are in the Senate expectation documents are how many meetings can you miss? Why can you miss meetings? What should you be at and why, right? And how often should you be there? And that's not really laid out for the cabinet. I know back last semester there was a lot of dissent because at some points there wasn't a whole lot of cabinet at meetings, and technically this isn't a cabinet meeting, this is a Senate meeting, but if there's stipends involved and there's like mismatching expectations. We should all be on the same page as to who should be where, how often, and why. And so the Senate has something like that. You can propose in the document, you would now be brought up for impeachment after missing 2, and you'd also have to be on another committee. That's fine. Actually, I think that even makes the fact that you're only getting $100 even, like, to Dave's point, like, you're getting less return on your investment because you're putting in more time. But anyways, a similar thing for the cabinet where, like, how many cabinet meetings can you miss? What are reasonable, excuses for missing a cabinet meeting? And then are you expected to be at these meetings? And if, like, that's a question that has never really been addressed. And if you are, how many can you miss? There's just those sort of basic things that aren't outlined in the Constitution or bylaws that could easily be an addendum similar to the Senate expectations. Because what the Senate is supposed to do is also outlined in the Constitution and bylaws. You're supposed to go to meetings, you're supposed to write like legislation, you're supposed to consider it, you're supposed to act in the best interest of the students. Like, that's all in there. It's all outlined. So.
Okay. Greg.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with Colin. I think that would be good to have those specific things, but I think kind of what the cabinet was saying is that, I mean, I kind of think it like Campus Life Committee is we have meetings every week, but nothing productive gets done at the meetings because that's not when the furniture is delivered, that's not when everything happens. So with cabinet, their job is to, like Houston is to do all the budgets, but that's not at the cabinet meetings. They're not sitting there and doing all the work. They have initiatives that they kind of just do on their own time. They have meetings with people who have 9-to-5 jobs. So the whole point would be, as a Senate or whoever looking at the cabinet, are they doing a good job beyond their expectations? Are they doing initiatives? And sometimes you have an initiative and it doesn't get accomplished for 3 months or a year, and you can't really measure it based upon what happened this week. Did we sit down for an hour and talk? So I think that's what we're doing.
Do you have any senators or cabinet members? Hannah.
Just to support that, and I know I'm coming from a very new place on the SGA. Never been on the SGA. Honestly, did not pay attention to you guys before I started the SGA, before doing the SGA. It's probably really bad, but I'm here now and I love it. But a lot of what we do does take a lot of time. Speaking from an academic side, a lot of the things I do, I'm not going to be able to accomplish in a week or 2 weeks. It's a month-long process. And my committees can speak to this. We work really hard, and me and Justin and Christian, and Christina, who left, but we worked really hard on this proposal all semester, and it's just getting to Vice Provost Chaska's now. But that doesn't make what they did any less significant. They are amazing senators, and I've really loved my time here on cabinet, and I'm going to continue to love my time here on cabinet and continue to work hard. And I don't know how we quantify that, but or qualify that, I don't know. But I'd just like to say that I'm really proud of all the people on my committees and everybody I've gotten to work with here.
Darby.
I just want to finish speaking, but I hope you all decide not to move forward with any sort of bill that will include compensation for members. I want to let you know, having not been a part of the SGA, having joined and then left, the SGA pretty much only matters to the people in this room unless you're hitting them in your wallet, which is what you saw tonight. People got afraid about their money, so that's what happened. I would like to say that I was educated before I came in this room, having heard about this bill yesterday morning while I was 4 hours away in Maryland. I come to learn 4 different senators' opinions before walking into this room, so I took my time. And to you, Tommy Daly, I say that you are a mean-spirited, self-serving, and easily intimidated individual. No.
Sorry. Darby.
You will only...
Darby,
it's unreasonable. There's no place for that in this meeting.
This is just bullying at this point, which isn't okay.
Sorry, Darby, but we can do that outside of the meeting.
Okay, and you can say I'm uneducated?
Their response.
No, I think we should just drop this entirely.
Yeah.
This motion is closed.
Second. All in favor of closing the meeting?